Hi, I am Lucy Cavendish, and I am delighted to be here with the one and only Livvy Bentley. Livvy Bentley's was in Made in Chelsea for I think 8 years. Longest running cast member. I'm not quite sure if cast is the right word because it's a reality show, but she'll tell us about that. I've known, as I know her, Olivia Bentley since she was a little tot. And I know her parents well, and I used to see her come to church with her little.
I must have been about 13. Probably younger.
Yeah, you probably were 13. I think, you used to come to church looking very neat. And did I know at this point you were going to become this sort of amazing superstar? I didn't know. She's one of 5. She's got three sisters and a brother. Big family. Grew up in the countryside, beautiful childhood, and then I saw you blossom into this sort of really sassy, pretty feisty
boy to washed up reality star.
Then you went to this, and then suddenly there was Livvy, not Olivia. I think you were probably with Livvy, and you've been on Made in Chelsea, and you're doing all sorts of things. And I now see you. And please do follow her, looking unbelievably beautiful and glamorous and gorgeous on Insta.
Not a sweaty mess right now.
And she's launched Jomo, which we're going to talk about. So welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on my podcast, because I want to get people of different generations talking.
Yeah.
It's really, I feel so important. I'm 57. How old are you now? You don't have to say, but
30.
You're 30, yeah. So I want to know about your world. We all want to know about your world and reality TV and how you got to where you got to. So would you like to start telling us about, why Made in Chelsea and how did that all happen?
So Made in Chelsea, I was approached when I was 19 and my parents said no. They were like, you're too young, you need to do something else. So then anyway, I went on to do photography. I did like fine art nude photography. And then they approached me again, I think it was a year later, and I had been on, I think done my gap year in Australia. They approached me a year later. Anyway, I said to my parents, listen, it would be a good idea. I'd love to do it to promote my photography. And that's how it all sort of started. And a friend of mine was on it at the time who then encouraged me to do it. And then that was it really. And then I sort of dropped the photography and stuck around for like 8 years.
So who were they? Were they scouts or producers or?
They were just like a casting team. But I think because when it started, originally it was a group of friends. And so a guy who I had sort of had a fling with, who was also at school with me, that was sort of how he that was my sort of in, I suppose, onto it.
What did you, obviously your parents said, no, you're too young. Were you cross with them? Were you like?
Not really, because I hadn't really given it much thought. And also I'd never really wanted, TV was not, when I was growing up, TV was not something I thought I'd wanted to do. Like it wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to stick to doing photography and I really enjoyed it. But then the timing of when Made in Chelsea came around, it sort of felt like the right thing to do. And then I realized, once I started it, I realized how much I actually enjoyed it, which is why I stayed on it for so long.
So what did you enjoy about it? Tell us a bit, for people that don't know Made in Chelsea, maybe give people an idea of what Made in Chelsea actually is.
So essentially, Made in Chelsea is a constructed reality show that follows the lives of young aspirational people. And so it's sort of like your relationships, your careers, your friendships. There's a lot of travel, which is amazing. Like they took us to the most incredible places and we'd filmed sort of seasons in like the south of France or Ibiza. So that side of it was incredible. And it was amazing. Like we basically just got to hang out with your friends, go abroad and just have a wild time. I think where I found it hard, where it started to get hard or where it gets uncomfortable is when you're in a relationship with someone else who's on the show, because then it's sort of like a whole nother dimension. Like it's all fun when you're pissed and single and hooking up with people, but then when you're in a relationship, it's a lot of like, there's a lot of input from other cast members. And then when I joined, the Instagram wasn't that big. It was all Twitter. So I used to get trolled a bit on Twitter, and it was more like about my physical appearance. Like it was people saying, oh, you bald bitch, or things like that. And so it wasn't that bad, like as now trolling is now. So it was all right. But Instagram, it wasn't really like that. Whereas now Instagram is so big that anything that ever happens on the show, you wait for a Monday night for the episode to air, knowing people are going to come for you on Instagram. And it's just like savage. I was fortunate because I joined at that time. I think people grew to like me by the time Instagram became so big. So I never really got the savage trolling. But I mean, a lot of my friends who are on it now get like death threats.
Death threats?
really aggressive messages, like horrible stuff.
God, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's savage. Like I think one of the girls ended up leaving the show because the trolling was so horrific.
Yeah, so when you started out, social, I mean, even in 8 years, it's changed, hasn't it? Social media.
Yeah, hugely. But I think hopefully now it's sort of doing more of a U-turn, because I think there was a time where it wasn't, not that it wasn't policed, but people were going hell for leather on like just horrific comments. Whereas I do think it's getting slightly better now. But I mean, when I always think about it, I'm so glad that when I was 16, Instagram wasn't around, because I don't think I'd be the most insecure, self-conscious person. Like it was, yeah.
Yes. What did the the casting people say to you? I mean, what is it like? Are there cameras in your life every day, all day? How does it work?
So it's sort of it's all based off. I mean, everyone always asks if it's real or not. It is very real. So any argument that happens is something that has happened, or if there's a breakup or relationship, it's all real. But the way it's sort of, well, I actually don't know how much of this I'm allowed to say. It's basically they would say, so whoever you're friends with, you meet them at a coffee shop and there are cameras, you get mic'd up, and then you film about whatever's actually going on in your life. So say I was having issues with a boyfriend, I'd sit and talk about it with my friends. I'd say, oh, I don't know what to do, whether to break up. It's all that sort of thing. And it's sort of 3 or 4 times a week, depending on how much you have going on in your own life.
So was there, I mean, did you have a feeling that you had to make things happen? Because obviously if everyone just sits around liking each other, it's like,
Yeah,
TV,
yeah.
I mean,
Not,
TV is TV. Things do, I mean, it's sort of people, I think people get confused about stuff, not you, but I mean, stuff does have to happen.
oh yeah, of course. And I think yeah. But I think for me personally, I sort of, I wasn't that bothered about being like the center of all of it all the time. I think it just naturally happened with different things. And because I had two quite big relationships on the show, they ended up being quite a lot for quite a lot of those seasons. So it wasn't, I never really did anything to like cause problems. But I mean, some people do, but I think the public can see through all that stuff. Like and I think this is the problem maybe with Instagram, is that a lot of people were getting hate, so they'd almost pretend to be someone they're not to be liked, but actually that's so you can see straight through that. So you're better off actually being a dick if that's the way you would behave, and people kind of like respect you for it, I think. But yeah, I don't think I'm trying to think if I ever did anything. Not really, probably just shit stirred a little bit.
But that's a very grown up and adult attitude to say the only way you can really be is yourself. I mean, if you're not being you, you're going to get found out at some point.
Yeah, but I think that comes from having done it for so long. But for me, I found it was hard. I went in waves of like finding it hard and not, because when I joined to when I left, it was a whole different cast. So I was with more like the original lot, and I was close with them, and then they slowly started to leave. And then even though they were older than me, and then the younger ones started to come in. So then I was like the older one of them. It was yeah, but it was amazing. Like I always say this to everyone, always thinks, I think reality TV has a sort of bad reputation, but I don't necessarily agree with it. Like, I mean, I had an amazing time, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed on it for so long. You know,
What was amazing about it? What did you really enjoy?
I just loved that. So when I got alopecia when I was a teenager, and then I spoke about it on Made in Chelsea because I started wearing a wig, and this is where the show is amazing. So if anyone's going through anything, or like say someone's a friend of mine who's on it, his mother has Alzheimer's, so it's good for like awareness of stuff. So I then spoke about the fact I was wearing a wig and why I was wearing a wig, and I got so many messages from young girls saying how much I'd helped them just from speaking about it, because no one really ever talks about certain things. I think especially as a girl when you're a teenager, it's very much about the way you look. It's all about that physical appearance. So then to sort of be able to speak about that it's like normal and it's totally fine if you don't have like long luscious locks and all that kind of stuff. So that side of it I loved. And obviously the traveling, hanging out with people, getting pissed on a beach in Ibiza, that's pretty amazing.
I really love that you spoke about the alopecia and that people, I mean, it is a good platform for that. I mean,
Yeah.
huge platform to be able to speak about things like
And
that.
Chelsea are very good at they do it in such a like sensitive way, which I really rate. And I think there's so many things have happened that they've dealt with in a and made it a more of an awareness. Like a friend of mine ended up having a miscarriage, which she spoke about, and it's sort of like, I think the problem with, not the problem, but I think there's a sort of something surrounds Made in Chelsea where I think people think no one's really real and we live these ridiculous lives and it's all about money, when actually it's really not about that. Everyone goes through very similar things. For sure, some of us went to private school and a lot of people didn't, but it's not, we all have the same, everyone goes through the same thing, whether that's alopecia or having a miscarriage or any of those sort of things. And I think you know, it's not all sort of, yeah, money and 5-star hotels.
So when in the outside world did you start getting recognized? How did it change
I
the
did, but it
world
was,
that wasn't made in Chelsea?
I mean, I did, but it was all quite, it was very slow. It wasn't like, you know, how people in Love Island come off Love Island and they're like ridiculously famous.
Yes.
Yeah, I would still not even say I was like, I'm still like quite a low rent Z-lister, but it wasn't like a huge, it wasn't like a massive thing, to be honest. It was like a slow sort of burner. I think, I can't work out if my siblings found it, I think my siblings found it a bit hard in the beginning.
Yeah, I imagine that is difficult. You've got your sisters on television.
And
Yeah.
some of my friends didn't. I remember one of my friends who had been away for the first 2 years of when I was doing it, and then we'd gone to some, I think it was like the Henley Regatta or something, and there were people asking for photos, and she like lost her shit, and it was just like it was odd because at the time I didn't really think about it, but then I suppose from like my childhood friends,
Yes.
it must have, yeah, it was probably a bit different, but it was never like, I honestly wouldn't say I was famous at all, like I really wouldn't. It's not.
So
Yeah.
you didn't feel, I mean, did you feel pressurized or an internal pressure from yourself to kind of make stuff happen, to have drama in your life? Because otherwise, you know, there's always this.
Not really, if I'm totally honest, because I think also the other side of when you're on the show, it doesn't have to necessarily be about what you have going on. It's if you're a good, like, supportive friend, or you're sort of not confrontational, but if you stand up for what you think, which is also what they like, what they look for is they like people who are opinionated, because it gives different options, like different, you know, scenarios when there's an argument, stuff like that. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be about your personal drama.
Yeah.
So if you're good friends with a lot of people on it, you end up doing well on it as well. It's all about the friendship.
So some girls were quite unpleasant, a bit bitchy. I'm not going to name any names, but but I was watching it going, ow, so that's a little mean. How did you deal with that?
I think in the beginning, premeditated, I really wasn't very confrontational, but I just wasn't, I didn't really argue that much with my sisters, and I never really fell out with friends. But I think what's good about it is that it sort of teaches you to confront everything. So like normally if I would have a fight with someone, I'd go slag them off to everyone else. But whereas on that, you're sort of in a position where you have to say what you think, which I actually think is really good, because now if something annoys me, instead of going and slag them off to everyone else, I just confront it.
Yes,
Uh,
you just tell them.
yeah. I mean, I was shit. When I remember my first day, I had to have a fight with someone, and I was like, oh, listen, I'm so sorry. And the producer was like, are you sorry though? And I was like, no. And she was like, then go fucking tell her no. And from then on, I was like, you're right.
So there's part of you that found it quite empowering.
Yeah. Definitely. And weirdly quite sort of therapeutic. Like the one thing I did, I mean, at the time it was hard, but when you're in a relationship on it, you do have to confront every single thing. And I think it's, I don't know how to explain it, but I think you see not red flags, but you notice a lot more things earlier on, whereas like in real life, things are a lot slower. So it could take you 6 months to realize that something fucks you off, or something they do you really don't like, or you've got different personalities. Whereas on the show, it highlights it a lot quicker, which is actually better, because then you can sort of, you know, address it, and having to address everything.
You didn't have I mean, it must be difficult having a relationship on camera. I know it's not all on camera.
But no, well, it depends. Mine really was, because the way it sort of works is you have to have a good relationship with the producers, because essentially what they're doing is it's your life. So you've got to tell them everything that's going on, like all your thoughts. So mine, both relationships, I did put pretty much everything out there, because I think it's hard though. Not everyone wants to say all the nitty gritty dark side of your relationship, because then what happens is it looks like you've just got a really shit relationship, because they don't see all the good stuff. When actually both my relationships, there were really good sides, but there were also really downsides.
Yeah.
But it was very hard. Like there were times that I was like, I just don't know if I can keep doing this. Because I said this to someone, I think the other day, it's like if you go through a breakup, you do it in real life. You do it in real life, you do it on camera, and then it airs. So you go through one breakup 3 times. That's why I had to stop. I couldn't watch it. I mean, I stopped watching it after about a year, because I was like, it just feels a bit weird watching it. But it's intense when you're in a relationship.
Because it's aired after the breakup.
Yeah, but also you're then open to like the public's comments. You then get the input of the other people on the show. And I think that when you're just like struggling with something, it's so hard, because you can't even trying to figure out what you want anyway, and then having everyone else's like opinions on it.
Yes.
A bit thick like me, it was fucking confusing. I was like, I don't know what to do here.
Because everyone was quite invested in your last relationship. I think people wanted you and Tristan to work out.
I think it was a mixed bag. I think it was more people wanted us not to work out. I can't even remember now. I don't even know when I broke up with him 2 years ago.
Oh, it's a while ago now,
It was a
really.
while ago, yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, it was very up. That relationship was very up and down. Not because of the show though. And I think
Okay.
it wasn't to do with the show, because I noticed actually it was almost, we had more issues when we weren't filming.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe you had to
Yeah,
better for the camera.
I know. But yeah, but aside from that side, it was a really good, I had a really good time. Like I miss it now sometimes.
So I mean, obviously the social media changed over the last 8 years. And as you said,
Yeah.
it probably got a bit nastier and your lives were maybe a bit more intruded on. Do you feel
Yeah.
that? Did you start noticing that and thinking I'm becoming everyone else's property?
A little bit, yeah. But I was very lucky that because by the time Instagram did get bigger, the public, I think, knew who I was as a sort of person and a cast member, that nothing I would do then sort of shocked them, if that makes sense. Whereas when you're new now, you're up for so much more, like, because the public haven't warmed to you, they don't know you yet. I think you're more like liable to sort of not liable, but yeah, you're more up for scrutiny, I
Yes.
suppose. But I'll be totally honest, I don't give a fuck what people say. I don't read it. I don't give a damn. I could sit and find horrible things, but I just can't be asked. Like, I really can't.
No, I think that's I think never read the comments below the line, or else you're just going to start going
There's
crazy.
no point. I mean, like, the Daily Mail comments are ferocious, and I made the fatal mistake of reading them once, and I was like, why have I bothered? So now I genuinely just don't. I don't see the gain in it, and that's also why I didn't bother watching the episodes when they aired, because I knew what happened at the time, and I also couldn't be bothered to hear other people's opinions. Like, it just doesn't. There was just no, for me, there was no point.
Yes, so you kept yourself sort of separate from it.
Yeah.
But there's people that got really affected by it. But did some people kind of say, I can't really handle this, I'm out?
Yeah, I think, but that was more from the social media comments. A lot of people,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people realized, they were like, "It's not really." And I think, unfortunately, some people with social media, a lot of people commenting would just jump on the bandwagon. And I think after a while, it must seriously take its toll on you. Like, I don't know how people would put up with that. If you're getting constant shit every week, it's like, oh, is this worth it?
But you miss it.
I do miss it. I do. I am going back. I already filmed, and then I'm doing another one for the launch of my vibrator.
So there is life after Made in Chelsea, but are you going to go back full time?
No. So the reason I actually left, I had this weird thing. So the end of last year, we filmed a series in Australia. And I think I just got to the point where I was turning 30. I had my business on the side, and I wanted to really put everything into that, which is why I then left. So then Jomo, which I started in 2020, end of 2020, and was doing Made in Chelsea and this sexual wellness business.
Yes.
And then this year, I just wanted to put all my attention on that. And I knew I just wouldn't be able to do both.
So you left, and were people very sad, or were they a bit like, we'll be back? I mean, yes, 30 is a turning point, isn't it? You go, 30, I'm not saying it's old, but it's not.
I think also I'd done it for a really long time, and I think originally when I left, it was more taking a break. I still don't really know, to be honest. I don't mind dipping in and out, but I got a lot of sweet messages from people saying, please come back and all this stuff. But I was just like, I'm a bit old now. I can't be playing spin the bottle, hooking up with 19-year-olds. Like, people want to think I'm fucking weird.
I mean, you see, I think of you as still being 22. You're sort of stuck when you joined. But
It's because
yes,
I got the exact same fucking haircut, because all my hair's falling out.
you're 30 playing spin the bottle. I mean, you could,
I
but
could,
yeah, there's
I
something
then would be up for trolling.
they were like this older woman copying off of 90.
This old cougar. And also now I'm in a relationship, so it is different.
Yeah, yeah.
So then January I just started really focusing on Jomo.
So tell us about Jomo, because this is brilliant. Tell us all about Jomo.
So Jomo is a sexual wellness brand that me and a friend of mine started like 3 years ago, and our first main product we launched was a CBD arousal oil. So it started with her and I used to do this morning walk, and we got into having conversations about sex, which I think I would say a lot of girlfriends have with each other. Anyway, I turned to her and I said, is it weird I fake orgasming? And she was like, no, I don't think you're alone in that. But then you should almost, sex is for both people, like it's for both people to enjoy. So what's the point in you faking it while he's enjoying it? Like you should sort of have it out. And that's how we sort of got onto the whole topic of JOMO and talking about like why it is that women fake it, or why some women can't orgasm from penetrative sex but they can from other things. And then that's how eventually we created the arousal oil with the CBD, was for that. And then now we've got another water-based serum, another lube basically, and then we're about to launch a vibrator, which is all very exciting.
So it started from a conversation of just women being honest about sex.
Yeah.
Is that where you're?
Pretty much. And also, like, we were talking about how, so different things like girls thinking they've got strange looking vaginas, or there's just so many things. And I think we also realized that actually Bella, she's my business partner called Bella, we're very lucky that we come from families where we all are very open and honest about everything. Like I discuss my sex life with my parents and my sisters, but a lot of people don't have that. And so we wanted to create like a platform where it was like a sort of safe space to talk about certain things, whether you've got a UTI or thrush or any of that kind of stuff. It's trying to like open up the conversation about things that I think people see as shameful, but actually everyone goes through the same thing. And it's just
how has it been received? I mean, it's
really good.
Yeah.
Like we have some testimonials from people. We got one testimonial, I think it was last year, and made us both cry about this man, sweet man who'd bought it for his wife who'd had a double mastectomy, and he said it was something like the first time they'd had sex in over 2 years or something, and he said it's completely changed their sex lives altogether. And it was just like really amazing stuff like that, because we put so much time into like creating the formula, and the whole premise of it is trying to take like the shame and seediness that surrounds masturbation and sex, mainly more for women, because I think there is something more, there's some sort of seedy atmosphere that it brings with women. But so the bottle, actually I've got it here, the bottle looks almost like a perfume bottle, so you'd never know it was lube.
The CBD lube.
This is the CBD, and it comes in like a really nice tubing packaging.
Oh yeah.
So the whole thing was like you'd have it. It's like you wouldn't be ashamed if it was on your bedside table, not like some strawberry flavored Durex.
Yes,
kind of
yeah. A big pot of KY jelly.
Yeah, literally. And it's all natural ingredients. And it's like pH neutral, so it doesn't mess up down there and get things like thrush and stuff.
So how did you research all that?
Honestly, just sat on my laptop for hours. Bella and I both did, just looking up different things. So her background, she's a celebrity makeup artist. So she was very good with all the certain ingredients. Right. I then found, I don't know why I wanted to do CBD. I think I read something somewhere. Or there was no, I don't know. Anyway, I started Googling loads of CBD. I think maybe my cousin who wasn't very well used a lot of CBD, and I got into it. But basically the CBD encourages blood flow, which then heightens sensation. So that's like our main ingredient in that one. And then the other lube that we've got is a water-based serum that's main ingredient is L-arginine, which has a similar effect. But the water-based, there's a water-based and an oil-based, because water-based use of condoms, oil-based you can't. Yeah,
fascinating. So
it is. And then JOMO stands for, this is the whole thing. So JOMO stands for joy of missing out, and also jealous of my orgasm, because it was created towards the end of lockdown. We realized how nice it is to be able to take time for yourself, and there was no FOMO because nothing was happening. And so how people should now bring that into their life post lockdown, and like just enjoying your own time and a bit of like self-care, self-love kind of thing.
So what happened about filming in thinking about it in lockdown? Did everything just
we know we did film. So the first lockdown we didn't, and then eventually when everyone started getting tested and certain things went back, we all lived in a house in Surrey. There were 2 separate houses that we all lived in for about 2 months and managed to film, but we weren't allowed to leave. And that was actually a lot of fun. It was like, yeah, it was amazing actually that time.
So when you started creating JOMO, you're saying in lockdown there was no fear of missing out. Do you find that people do have, I mean, I think people of all generations have that, but do you find that specifically for your age group?
What, having FOMO?
Yeah, that they're worried about missing out on stuff.
I think it depends on more the person. Like it's like if you're single, you know how some people when they're single want to go out and be out all the time.
Yeah.
which I used to be like this time around before I got into this relationship, I was so content being at home on a Friday night, like doing my ironing. Like I loved it. I was like and I had no concern about, I didn't want to go out and get hammered. And I think it very much depends on the person.
Yes. Yes.
Um, for
So you
sure.
are perfectly happy thinking, oh, thank God I'm not going out. I'm just going to
Yeah.
stay to
And I
that.
can get up at 6 a.m. and go on a nice walk. I
So
didn't used to be like that. I used to be an absolute party animal.
what changed?
I don't know. I think after so this year I did 6 months sober from January till June. Um, and because I wasn't drinking, I mean, I'd go and see people in like pubs and stuff, but I'd never go out in the evenings. And I realized how much happier I was not doing all that. Like every night that I used to go out sort of rolled into one. Now I go out on like sort of special occasions. But I mean, there was a time where I was partying quite a lot and it was really unfulfilling. Like I don't look back and go, my God, that was an amazing night. Or some of them, yeah, but I think I was just doing it more out of boredom.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I understand that. So what do you think people, I mean, I'm 57, so you're significantly younger than me. What do you think my generation needs to know about your generation? What do we get wrong?
I'll be honest, I don't think our generation I think it's the next generation that even I don't know much about because it's all that, I don't even know I'm Gen Z's below me, isn't it? That's the next one. What am I?
I don't know.
Z? X? No, I honestly have no idea. But I would rather stick to being more like your generation. I don't want to go like I don't even have TikTok, all that stuff. I can't like it sounds I just don't have the mental capacity for that sort of thing. But
Yes.
I think my generation's very just like I actually don't really know.
But do you feel that people judge you for being on the telly? Do you have people saying, "Oh, your parents should let you do
Yeah,
that"?
100%. And I've actually had like certain family friends have made comments over the years. I think what the difference is our generation has the luxury of not having to have like 9 to 5s. Like there's things like Instagram where you can make money and it's not very, we don't have to go and work in the city and we have a lot more option in terms of what we do, which I don't know necessarily if your generation thinks that's actually a job or not, which is fair enough.
We
Like
don't think that's a job, but I know
yeah,
what
and
you mean.
people used to comment to me going, "Oh, sitting around in the Bluebird having a coffee is hardly a job." But I did make money from it, and I now make money on Instagram, which I can survive off, and earn decent money from. So that's probably, I think, in the work aspect, that's probably where the generations are different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, actually, if someone's going to pay you to sit and have a coffee in the Bluebird, fantastic
oh
as
yeah,
well.
no one would say no to that.
Yeah, I mean, who would say no? I'd really rather, go, of course that's, but there is that sense, isn't there, like that's not work, you're not being a
Yeah.
man, you're not being
I
a,
think it's because it's not sort of, I mean, it is. I personally have quite more of a lazy approach to my social media, which not a lot of people have, but there are a lot of like grafters out there with Instagram and like influencers. And so I sort of see I suppose it's because it's not a full 9 to 5, you're leaving the house in a suit kind of thing that
yeah,
people don't quite understand.
yeah.
And like I have days where I'll probably be in my flat and probably just reply to emails and I won't even put makeup on. And then there are days I'll put makeup on and do Instagrams and do different things. So it's different, I think.
So do you feel a pressure to look good pretty much all the time? Because I mean, a lot of your Instas I mean, they're amazing, they're beautiful, you look fantastic, and
I
how do you manage to look that good all the time?
Well, but I don't though. And I think even doing this, like I haven't got any makeup on, which I would never before, I'd never leave my house without makeup on. I'd never do anything if I didn't have makeup on. Like I'd never do an Instagram without makeup on. I mean, mine's very more about like, I mean, it's just like clothing and there's no specific thing that I promote, but which I need to get better at. But I now I'm not that bothered by it. I think the older I've got, the less I care. When I was younger, I gave such a shit. And honestly, I would post probably once a week because I'd have to take the perfect photo and I felt pressure to do that. But whereas now, I think that was pressure I was just putting on myself. It wasn't pressure from anyone else,
Yes.
to have like a specific look or whatever. But now I can give a damn.
So in terms of JOMO, do you feel it's for all generations? I mean, have you seen a difference in the age of people that contact you about it? Because it's a very yeah, it's great. It sounds really great. But women, maybe not just women, that we're English, we're not
Um,
very good at talking about sex.
yeah. So it's also for men and women, and weirdly, a lot of our buyers are men, and I can't work out because it helps with things like erectile dysfunction and maintaining a boner. So and both of them do. So I can't work out if it's guys buying it for themselves or for their wives, because our biggest market is women going through menopause, so post-peri, all that kind of thing, and postpartum. Our age range is probably from 30 and above, because of the price point. It's £48 a bottle, and so young people I don't think would spend that, although skincare and cosmetics are expensive, but it's more for like sort of 30 and above. Because so my business partner got quite sick when she was younger, so our whole big thing was trying to boost confidence in the bedroom and making women feel empowered. She went through, I can't remember what it was called, but she basically ended up in a wheelchair and ended up being put on antidepressants. Anyway, a lot of medication affects natural lubrication down there, and so that's, and like if girls go on the contraceptive pill, it can affect all of that. So it was us trying to figure out a natural way that's sort of not medical, or not having to take something prescribed, and something that's sort of sexy.
I imagine there's a potentially large market out there, because obviously you and I work as a couples therapist, but couples, they can't, the one thing they don't talk about is sex. It takes ages for me to say.
I find it so mental, I think, but I don't know if it's a society thing where sex is sort of, because there's so much out there, whether it's porn or you go on Instagram, everyone's in a bikini and lingerie. It's sort of like, it's so saturated, but no one actually talks about the nitty-gritty side of it. And there's a weird sort of shame around it. Like, even, I mean, I get nervous going into Boots sometimes asking for bloody Caniston. You feel sheepish, but actually, like, why wouldn't you? Well, it's better to do that than go and sit rotting in your flat that you've got some fucking.
It's like people that get piles. It's called something like, this isn't product placement, I think it's called anusol.
But
push your baby out, you might need some, right? And it's like as if it's your personal fault.
I think that's what it is.
And I think also something bad and wrong.
And it's the same with the lube though. Like, I remember when I started JOMO, and I'd say to guys, oh, it's lube, and they'd go, oh, I don't need lube, I'm so big. And in my head I'm thinking, your massive schlong doesn't actually mean that the girl's going to suddenly be like dripping, basically. It's just rubbish. Some girls just can't produce don't produce it the way some other girls do. Like, some girls squirt and some girls don't. But guys' mentality, I think it's guys that make girls feel like that, I think. And like, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily need lube, but every time I have sex I use JOMO, every time without fail, since we created it. And it's nothing, it's just because it adds something different. And I think that's the other thing as well. They say you should actually use lube when you're having sex, whether you need it or not, because it adds like something different to it. But there's such a weird negative connotation around it. I think everyone's idea of lube is KY jelly next to
that's right. They think it's all whatever,
And you old and dried up, which is the worst expression I've ever fucking heard.
I know, it's like being a dried up bone. I mean, with menopausal women, postmenopausal women, we need help, of course.
But also you spent 6 years practicing it. Why not make the most of it after all that? And you don't need to worry about periods or getting pregnant. That's when you're in your prime.
I know that is what is so fabulous. I mean, people are like, oh, don't you miss your periods? And I'm like, hell no.
Not.
Oh my God.
It's not the worry of getting pregnant. But it should be celebrated. I think it's so.
Best in heaven, not having to carry blooming tampons and tampons with you. I mean, it's fab and not I'm all good to go. It's brilliant. So I think that's great what you're doing. I think it's very helpful for couples, and hopefully it also gives couples a space for them to talk to each other about this stuff.
But also for young people, because I was thinking about it, like, I only know about menopause now because of doing research for JOMO and all different stuff, and know about HRT. Young people, and I think the average age of going through menopause is there's a lot of younger people are going through it younger, but no one ever talks about it. You're definitely not taught about it at school. I never knew what menopause was at school. Like, it just wasn't a conversation you had. So we'd love to, like, I mean, I can't obviously educate anyone because I have no degree in any of this, but I find it fascinating learning about it. But with JOMO, we're trying to sort of do more the educational side of a lot of things as well, because there's so many silly things that people don't know, like the basic one, you should pee after sex, which a lot of people do know, but you should definitely pee after sex. People don't also know, this is another one for guys, if a guy ever thinks a girl has a smelly, I hate the word for done, nunny, what they don't actually realize is their semen offsets the pH balance of a vagina. So actually it comes from them. It's not to do with the girl, but people don't know that. Guys just automatically go, oh, she doesn't shower. And there's so many different things that I think I'd love people to like also normalize. I think it's all very normal stuff, but there's some weird thing around it where people think it's, you know, it's like very taboo to talk about it, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's great that you're bringing it into people's world. So how can people find Jomo? How can they find Jomo, and how can they find you?
So we have an Instagram page, which is just Jomo London. And then our website is www.jomolondon.com.
And they can find everything on there.
Yeah.
And you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, that sounds weird. Yeah, and we'll be launching our vibrator very soon.
Tell us about your vibrator. Just
Got it here.
Okay, let's have a look.
So it's called Mojo. It is quite big. But yeah, this is it. And
Brilliant.
it is I researched this a lot. I mean, I've worked with a lot of sex toy companies. So we've gone for a style called the wand massager. So it's like this.
Yeah.
Waterproof. Obviously works with both of our lubricants, has 25 different settings. But yeah, this is it.
Wow, there's a microphone.
And I know I've showed it to people and everyone gets very confused as to which end you use, but it's yeah,
that end.
this end, yeah.
The microphone end. Brilliant.
Right. Or people using it as a back massager, which
well, you can do whatever you want to do with it. That sounds brilliant. I'm sure it'll go from strength to strength. Maybe you'll start doing like couples courses and stuff. I don't know. You never know where you're going to go with this.
Have I not told you about the other Liv Bentley? There's a woman in the States who, and I get DMs from people all the time, and she sleeps with all her clients, like couples. Anyway, she's called Liv Bentley. So I get these outrageous messages and fees from nothing but people saying how much they're willing to pay. And I'm like, hang on.
Yeah, she sleeps with the couples.
She sleeps with the couples to help their like
okay
relationship.
Wow.
A bit much. Listen, if times get tough and I can't afford the flat, I'll turn it into a knocking shop. Not joking.
So your future plans are Jomo, maybe a little bit more made in Chelsea.
Yeah.
Have kids, or is that a very leading question?
I do want kids. I went through a weird phase of not wanting children, but I definitely do. But just not yet. I think at the moment I do a podcast. And there's a few other bits I want to do before having babies.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
On here and sharing all this with us. It's great. It sounds wonderful what you're doing. And hopefully you'll be back on our screens.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Thank you.